Thank you for Dr. Abdullatif. I would like to invite both speakers, Dr. Abdullatif and Professor Chee, for some questions. I'd like to thank both speakers for keeping us on time. So we have about actually 14 minutes even for questions, so we actually gained some time. As you know, both talks were kind of concentrated on local experiences. So we have the first talk about the experience of using ICT, embedded ICT in Singapore, and we have the other one about the experience of having that in the UAE. So we'd like to open the floor for any questions, please. Can we have the mic passed, please?
My name is Joachim Kolb. I'm an independent consultant. I've got two questions. First, what's the role of textbooks? From Dr. Abdullatif's description of the IIT classroom, you got the impression that it wasn't very much up to the teacher to provide the learning environment and prepare materials. Will textbooks have a continued role to play, or are they on the way out in the new world of education? Second question, specifically to Dr. Abdullatif. You mentioned the iPad generation. The iPad loomed very large in your talk, as indeed in UAE education at the federal university level in general. To what extent is the iPad really of that crucial importance? You said yourself that it's more of an output device than an input device. What we want is student creativity. To what extent is the iPad really the tool to get there? Thank you.
Regarding the books, the textbooks, last year in IAT system we decided not to purchase any more printed books. That was very challenging for us, and we are very thankful for our board of trustees to support that decision. The reason for making such a decision was because when you have a textbook and you have other devices, many teachers will be more relaxed in using the traditional textbooks. But that also puts another burden on us, is how do we bring an interactive textbooks on those devices? And I think that was one of the key things that we have worked very hard. We all understand that we are somewhat pioneering this area, and there is many publishers worldwide. They are making their efforts trying to come up with an interactive material on the textbooks and to have an iBook version of it. That was not an easy task, frankly speaking. Whatever resources there was used. Plus also we encourage our teachers, because we know the iBook is accessible to all teachers. They can bring their own also creativity in creating their own iBooks. This is one of the things we encourage our teachers to do. And that also helped. So trying to bring some of those textbooks, whether it's in an interactive available from the publishers or from developed in-house, and there's a lot has been developed in-house. All this, I think it gives us the advantage of using or pushing students toward the digital contents rather than the old printed material. The second question you ask about the iPad generation and whether the iPad is good or not. Well, I'm not saying here an iPad is an ideal solution, but iPad, I think, have made a big impact on this generation when it was introduced. The level of interactive that it's bringing together, and the use of it, the easy access, the easy use of it, and I think that's the advantages that iPad may have. However, we all understand the competition is very high out there, and every day there's a new devices being introduced with different softwares and different ways, and all these things are option and are available. The good thing is that when we talk about the Plato system is independent, it's regardless whether it's an iPad or Microsoft base or any format or platform, that still can be used. So we are not kind of attached to a single device, but until now, the iPad is providing that solution, which is we find it very interactive with the students, and the students are very much engaged into it.
Iyad Malaib from Intel Corporation. My question to Dr. Abdullatif. You talk about about professional development, actually. You mentioned using technology inside the classroom changed the way of teaching. Is teacher actually change information or how teacher, I mean, they are sharing any information with each other by using technology inside the classroom?
Sharing information?
Yeah, I mean, if they're changing the way of education, correct, inside the classroom. Yeah. Are they sharing any information after the classroom between themselves, how they deal with the technology inside the classroom?
Yeah. Thank you, Iyad, for this question. In fact, I would like to start by thanking Iyad and Intel Corporation for, when we started one-to-one back in 2009, all of our teachers has gone through the one-to-one Intel program, PD. That was one of the very essential programs that really helped to bring the standards of our teachers to the right level. The great thing about having a Plato across the system is available. The teachers will share their practices and they will upload it into the Plato, and it will be accessible throughout all the different locations and different campuses. So when we have, for example, a distinguished physics teacher in Fujairah campus in that specific topic, they use that topic, they lecture it the way they think it is, and they can upload it into the system and can be shared by all other faculty and staff throughout the system. So bring in sharing practices. This is one of the great advantages we find it using the Plato as a unified learning management system, and it allows accessibility for all the teachers. It allows accessibility also at the curriculum development unit where they can identify good practices, different lessons, how it's being delivered, and the distinction between them, and they share it with other campuses as well.
Bismillah. Dr. Yasin Atif from Yale University. And Dr. Abdullatif, you mentioned in the portal some relationship with the parents. I did not elaborate too much on that though, but you mentioned that there are a number of accounts that were dedicated for the parents, and I feel that the involvement of the parents at this age, before they go to the university, this case of each of their kids is important to contribute to the education of their children. So I'm curious to know what kind of services you're offering to the parents. Is it plain score viewing, or we parents, we are very much interested to reach the teachers, for example, because these are the frontliners in the class, and unfortunately in some schools they organize some meetings with the parents maybe once a year or twice a year. We feel that more continuous interaction with teachers is important, and a portal like this offer this continuous interaction between parents and teachers. So I don't know whether in Singapore something similar is engaged to have this form of interaction, and in the Plato platform, what this accessibility to parents is actually offering.
Thank you, Dr. Yasin. We started this year is providing access to parents. When we started the Plato, the Moodles was designed to engage students and teachers at the beginning. That was the first phase of it. Now the second phase of this year, where we provide access to all parents. Now, the type of access to the parents, first of all, where the parents can monitor their kids' performance through the exams, through the quizzes, through the attendance. This is kind of things we provide to the parents. But also, they can access and they can see the kind of material that is available in there, for example, for the certain students' grade. They can see what is the contents that is available for them. So those are the things that we provide for the parents. But again, you mentioned a very important point. Not necessarily all the parents are keen to go into the LMS and log in and to see how their kids are doing. So we try to provide that. Not necessarily all the parents are totally engaged, not 100%, but we try to get them, as many of them engaged, and give us their feedback and if they have any comments. So and we are trying this year to get more parents associated with the LMS. But that's one of the things that culturally need to be established here. And that will take time. And the more the benefit the parents, they find value on their kids' performance, they can monitor them. I think that something will help to get them more engaged.
So can I say something? So yes, parental involvement is important for us in education in the Singapore schools. So every school has an LMS, and they provide accounts for parents to log in to monitor and track their students' work. So we also feel that parental involvement is very important in this age of social media. So when we talk about wellness and protecting our students from undesirable dangers, it's important to bring in parents into the process. So schools will organize parent-school dialogues towards being involved in the students' education. So I just want to comment also on the use of textbooks resources. So in Singapore, it's about curriculum-based education. So we provide textbooks and digital resources to support the curriculum. So I just came back from Korea where they have a textbook symposium. So there were some concerns that in Korea, the school's teachers might be very textbook-based. You know, they teach page 1 to page the last page, and Korea has plans for digital textbooks. So there are issues about, you know, relying too much on one form of media. For us, it's really about e-resources, and we have a repository of digital resources which are put together. Teachers can share these resources, and it's important for teachers to share their practices. And this is through professional learning communities. I think it's more important for them to share their practices than resources. So, yeah, that's my sense.
Thank you. Before I move on to Dr. Nader over there with a question, I just wanted to ask you, because we have a situation over here where the parents probably in the UAE are not so engaged through the online system, and yet you are saying in Singapore you have some engagement of the parents. But how do the teachers manage what could be an overload on the part of the parents and the teachers? You know, me being a parent, I could be basically emailing the teachers all the time, asking about the progress of my son or my daughter or what have you. So how do you manage this process? Do you have a particular way of managing it, or you're just leaving it to the teacher himself or herself?
I think by and large, the teachers have coped well. In fact, in Singapore, we have parents which are too overly involved in the students' education because we have a very competitive system. So, but I think by and large, the teachers manage, and they assure parents that the students are on good progress, and there's not an issue to be to always dialoguing about. Yeah.
Nader Azarmi from Eptic. I have a general question. Obviously, I was listening to the first session this morning and about why we need a smart learning, for example. What do we want to achieve with a smart learning? What's the outcome? And then the discussion was that how do we measure that outcome? Have we achieved or not? And then obviously a couple of speakers were saying that it's a long term. Don't expect short-term measures that probably you can say whether it's successful or failure. I'm a little bit worried about long term, because in the long term we're all dead, so I suppose we can't essentially, we have to see some short-term benefits from this as well. In talking to some of my university colleagues, where the students, for example, from high school go to university, I hear that they sometimes complain that the students are weak in certain areas. Now, I was wondering whether that could be some focal point that we talk to each other and find out where we essentially need to improve the quality of a student's knowledge and capability when they go to university, and then perhaps see how a smart learning can improve the quality of capability of the students and the learning period to essentially on those subjects as a measure of success. Not, I don't want to say everything else is so holistic, we should do that. I don't want to stop that. But is that something that, for example, school and the universities can work together and identify areas that we can essentially have some specific projects, work, content, training, and see whether it essentially adds the value and show the value in addition to the others?
There is for sure a short-term value for bringing smart learning. And I'll give you a very simple example. if we decide tomorrow to pull all the iPads and the laptops from the classrooms, what would you think the students' response would be? So it means that having those devices inside the classroom is really making an impact in their learning. Now, how do we correlate it and quantify it? That maybe takes a little bit longer time. How do we make sure that having those kind of access to these different e-learning resources and how it's making an impact into their understanding of the phenomena, for example, or this subject, will take time until we see the test and so on. So this is the key issue, that it's not specific yet, but it is building up. And it is becoming an essential. It is no longer being, like I said, it's an option. Using e-learning, it's a must for this generation, because we believe totally that this generation need to have access to all these resources, and they need to be wired and connected all the time. Now, the other issue that you raise is how do we bridge the gap between the schools and the post-secondary education on universities. And I think this is one of the challenges we face here in this country. And it is important that as we bring more students to be skilled-based rather than knowledge-based, it will make them more prepared for university education. In the old days, we used to think, for example, research skills for people who are doing PhDs. That's where the research project comes in. No, now research skills comes in from KG. Kids have access all the time to Google information. They need to have the critical thinking of those information. What does it mean? And what's the value of it? What is right? What is wrong? And more importantly, like we said, they are also multitask. They can do several things at the same time. And these skills build up from the KG level. It's no longer we have to wait until you go to the higher education to make them prepared. If we bring kids with those kind of skills earlier on, we should be able to have them more prepared for the post-secondary education, for university level, and they will be more, in fact, they will challenge the university professors more by having them equipped with those kind of skills.
So, to me, my sense is asking the right questions. It's not asking the effectiveness of ICT versus not using ICT. It's just that you don't ask, whether paper and pencil is effective for education. It's a whole plethora of issues. It's a package where, policy, management, pedagogy. And so, but this is not to say we don't monitor. Over the short term, medium term, we constantly monitor in terms of the transformational value of the technology. You go to a classroom, if you are a sharp observer, you'll be able to see changes. You look across a range of indicators. How are your students performing? I talk about the international comparison test. You bring experts from overseas. See your classrooms have changed. Classroom practices have changed. Talk to the teacher. What their attitudes are. I think we have a range of measures that can give you a pulse of the impact of technology. So I think it's about asking the right questions and not asking about the impact of ICT per se. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, please join me in thanking our speakers. Thank you.